The regular NFL season is just a little more than 3 weeks away. There are still 2 pretend football season games for your New England Patriots, and one roster of 53 men is slowly coming together, at which the crux of debate these days seems to be the wide receiver room. Will the Baker become a touchdown maker, or do we have a Chism schism? Let's find out as we are joined today on the pod by Mego with Fitzy here on Six Rings. Here we go.
Hey, whatever it takes, man. It's all about winning, all right? Winning on 3. 1, 2, 3, win!
Celebrating the heroes of Foxborough's past.
And with a good block. Look at Grover. Touchdown all the way. Watch the block of number 73, John Hanna.
The champions of the dynastic era.
Adam Vinatieri booms a 48-yard field goal, and the Patriots are Super Bowl champions.
The Patriots of tomorrow.
We're going to remove entitlement from our football team. We're going to earn the right to be here every single day.
And the fans whose faith never wavers. This is Six Rings and Football Things.
All righty, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the latest live Six Rings and Football Things across the Fitzy GFY and WEEI socials. There she is, Mego at Megan_Ottolini. And of course, your old pal, Nick Fitzy Stevens here at Fitzy GFY. We are coming off of a largely successful preseason debut for the Mike Vrabel era New England Patriots. A pretty good game for Drake May, better than average for Will Campbell. But there were some people who popped and shone through the mess and the madness, convincing us that perhaps they've got a better than average shot at making the 53-man roster as well. Now then, unfortunately, there's a lackluster practice on Monday, which I heard about, as the Pats prepare to go to Minnesota, where they're going to face old friend B-Flow, Kevin O'Connell, and the Minnesota Vikings in not one Mego, but 2 joint practices. We'll get to that and what the Patriots can expect in just a couple minutes. But first, you published a piece today at weei.com. Fabulous website. Always bookmark it. First thing I check every day. Which wide receivers will make the 53-man roster? Before we get into your analysis here, why don't you just sort of tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the wide receiver room overall, how it's evolved from the draft through free agency, the draft, up to now and in camp. And then we'll get into who we think is going to ultimately make the 53.
Sure. So it's a crowded room. And when we've said that and raised questions with Mike Vrabel about it, he has said everybody has a dozen or so wide receivers on their roster when it's 90 guys, 91 guys in camp. And that's true. But the difference with the Patriots is there are so many of these guys who they have some level of investment in, be it very recent draft status, draft capital that they expended on them, or actual guaranteed money tied up in them. And that's why the battle for these, we're assuming in this article that I wrote, 6 spots is so interesting, because there's going to be a couple guys who just, somebody who maybe isn't paying as much attention to what's happening in training camp, waiting for the regular season, will say, holy crap, they cut that guy, or they traded that guy. And I'll just jump the gun here. I mean, to me, some of the biggest movements have happened over the last 2 weeks. Now, we have 2 weeks and a day until cut down day. That's when they have to get to the final 53-man roster to go into the regular season. And in these past 2 weeks, since that in-stadium practice that they held 2 Fridays ago, you have Kendrick Bourne going out with an injury, and then Jalen Polk going out with an injury in the preseason game. Those are 2 guys who, if you want to be generous with Jalen Polk, really, were on the bubble to start the preseason training camp, the offseason program, and were kind of on the bubble throughout. And so I think both of them dealing with some matter of injury. It seems that Jalen Polk's, at least from the outside, looks like it might be a little more serious than Kendrick Bourne's. That they might be out. Like those 2 guys very much might be out. They might be 2 that are gone. And that really changes the dynamic of who's fighting for that 6th roster spot and what impact will they make on the team. And do they sneak on as a receiver, or they go in for that special team / technical wide receiver role, as we've seen Bill Belichick teams employ so often?
Yeah, I've been one to say when not complaining, for everyone who's listening, about how I'll never forgive them for not drafting Lad McConkey. There's your prerequisite reference, everybody. That I've been saying that Mike Vrabel, Ryan Cowden, Stretch, none of them are beholden, nor should they be, to any player that was selected prior to their own free agency and their draft this year. So if that means they don't think Jalen Polk was worthy of a roster spot, period, let alone a second-round pick, if they want to kick him to the curb or toss him like a sack of old potatoes in the garbage, go right ahead. If Javon Baker's not making people stand up out of their wheelchairs, demanding people grab their popcorn, or making plays and acting like a mature grown-up, then so be it. Seek employment elsewhere. Thanks for stopping by. And also with Kendrick Bourne, I mean, guy says everything right. Guy does everything right. It just doesn't seem like there's a spot for him, or it doesn't seem like he's been able to break through. And I've thought for weeks now that there have been 5 locks at receiver. First, I thought there were 4. Then Mac Hollins suited up last week and showed up and showed out at the joint practice. And you could see his size, his worth. What a great red zone. He's like the size of a tight end that moves like a wide receiver. It's a hoss on wheels that don't wear shoes. And where's
a Trojan Haas, if you will.
Yeah, Trojan Haas. Yeah, and like he also wears those fun shirts that looks like he picked him up at some sort of reggae or ska festival with all like the strings dangling down from him. Like I went from like, I don't know about this guy. Do we really need him, to like, hey, I like this Mac Hollins guy. Now I understand why whenever he leaves a fan base and a franchise, people always say, oh no, we love Mac Hollins. Oh, you guys are getting a real one. He's the best. So I see his value. I have thought for the longest time, Mego, it's going to be Diggs and it's going to be Pop and it's going to be Kyle Williams and it's going to be Mac Hollins and it's going to be Kayshon Boutte. And I thought Kayshon Boutte locked up his spot a while ago. I think people like yourself and other members of the assembled Patriots media cartel over on the Little Hill all believe that he was one of the most professional looking receivers all camp long, and arguably made the highlight catch of the camp too on that back shoulder front pylon touchdown catch, I believe the same day of the Commanders joint practice.
Yes. I spoke with Todd Downing before practice yesterday, and he had really glowing things to say about Kayshon. And we know that he took a step forward in his process and it being a little bit more mature and professional with his work ethic and the time that he was just spending at the facility last year. And I think you saw it incrementally improve last year, but this year, it's been some time coming that we've been waiting for it, but I do think it's possible that you have a breakout year for Kayshon Boutte. And part of it is he gives you, again, a different look than some of the other guys on this team. You have guys who can play inside the numbers. You have Pop Douglas. We'll talk about Fitzy and Mego III, guys who are very obvious slots for Josh McDaniel's system. Kayshon's something different, and he can go up and use his physicality and get those 50-50 balls. And we've seen him have these contested catches in the end zone throughout camp. And that's an approach and a skill set that I think Mike Vrabel seems to be very excited about. He's been very consistent through most of training camp. I see him on this roster. I agree with the 5 that you named there. I will just say, in terms of throwing around the term lock, Diggs is a lock to me. Kyle Williams, because he's a brand new draft pick, is a lock to me. And Hollins looks closer to a lock because they have $3 million guaranteed wrapped up in him.
And Pop Douglas.
And Pop Douglas. After that, because we've seen how drastically things can change, as I said at the beginning of the pod, in the last 2 weeks, things can change in these 2 weeks before the 53-man roster is set. I'm just sitting here saying, at this point in camp, this is what my projection is.
Yeah, and I agree completely with your projection. And I think, those are my 5 that are a lock. And for all we know, they could keep those 5, and that's that, and no talking back. I still think they're going to keep 6. We had someone in the chat, Jeff Stenberg, our favorite guy down in Tampa, say that he thinks they should keep 7. And this was a good question. I kept it up on the screen for a little while here from Scott DeFelice regarding who they would possibly keep as a 6 or a 7. With the dependency of Josh McDaniel's offense on the slot receiver, and considering the size, I'll add in editorially, and injury history of Pop Douglas, isn't keeping Chism as a backup almost required? I can see him being a slot backup. I think Kyle Williams could also play. I think there's a number of guys. Steph Diggs can also play the slot. You get plenty of guys that can play the slot. I don't think you would keep him as break glass in case of emergency Pop Douglas insurance. I think Fitzy and Mego III should be and can be his own player as well. Now he's winning against 2s and 3s more often than not in camp and in the pretend season game against the Commanders. But when you've got Mike Vrabel talking about his playing strength, which I thought was an interesting choice of words, he has the most catches, has the most yards, and has a touchdown last week. Seems to now not only have the trust of Dobbs, but also is catching passes from May and intermittently running with the ones. That leads me to think that in the race of if they only keep 6, Chism may have the lead over Baker, though Baker does have significant special teams value.
Special teams factors for both of them, in my opinion. If it's going to be 6 guys in this position group, and I really do think it's set up to be Baker versus Chism for that final spot. At least as we sit here today, we've seen them both get a ton of opportunities in that last preseason game against the Commanders in special teams. I don't know where Chism fits in there. That's going to be making Jeremy Springer say, gotta have this guy in this phase of the game because you have Marcus Jones as a fantastic punt returner, because you had Travion Henderson just own the new kickoff.
I mean, how do you not make him the kickoff guy? Holy smokes.
And so I think that puts it a kind of a difficult position for Chism to. Now, he had a great touchdown later in the game, of course, in the preseason game on special teams and a heads-up play, and that's awesome and should be weighed in the process of who he's becoming. But again, when you're doing stuff in the late third and fourth quarter of a preseason game, it does not hold the same weight as running with the ones, in my opinion, as what you do in joint practices, as even what you do if you get the opportunity to be in a spot where you get a rep on special teams as a kickoff or punt returner. And so it's just kind of, to me, like 2 sides of the same coin when you look at Baker versus Chism. Baker's a guy who has so many natural tools, such athleticism, and can make the big plays and has made a ton of big plays through camp. Chism is a guy who is lacking in his height, his measurables, even though he's the same, almost exact same size and weight as Danny Amendola was when he came into all this program, and just has a knack for getting open, understanding space, and a work ethic that if you talk to his coaches is just Todd Downing called them an absolute joy to work with.
Can't beat that.
You kind of have to make a decision there of, are we going with the guy who still has questions around his professionalism and how locked in and how much he gets it, but has all the natural upside, or the guy who doesn't have the natural upside? We're still trying to figure out his fit, but damn, the momentum that he's had over the last week and a half and everything that he's done to be coachable. They don't give out NFL team positions on the 53-man roster because they like you. You know,
affability, likability, and
so I think it's a really interesting either or that they're looking at with them.
So you have Baker versus Chism III as the wide receiver 6 after you go down your 5. You call them the Bubble Boys, and you have some quotes from my favorite Patriots coach, special teams coordinator Jeremy Springer. Mego writes, special teams coordinator Jeremy Springer spoke glowingly of both players before Monday's practice. Javon has a great skill set, man. He can run. He's got length. He's fast. He's fearless. All those things right there. When you talk about the gunner position and talk about players, you've got to have that, and you've got to have some mental aspect too to go out there and just go balls to the wall. That's what he's doing right there, and he has that kind of mindset. As far as Efton Chism III, quote, Efton's doing everything we're telling him to earn a role on special teams. He's trying to earn a role right now, and I'm happy with where he's at. Now, I know Springer is totally upbeat, jiving, dancing, shaking, Mr. Positive human energy guy. I love him for that. So that's great. I could see the Patriots almost in a perfect world, because I don't want to let Javon Baker go, because I still think there's just a little something there. He has made a bunch of eye-popping catches. He's had a few drops, made a few dumb mistakes too, like flicking the ball 50 yards up in the air after catching a touchdown against the Commanders. But there's still something there. Maybe in a world, Mego, they keep Chism and they keep them both, but Baker gets told, you're being kept as a special teamer. And if there's an opportunity for you at wide receiver, we'll try to work you in. Maybe that's their way of holding on to him, because I believe, honestly, I think at this point, Chism has done enough that some team is going to say, you know what? We're going to take a chance on this kid. He looks like he could be a new Amendola. They played that game in 2019 with Braxton Berrios. They let him go. Jets picked him up, had a nice little 6-year run between the Dolphins and the Jets, got paid a couple $1 million, made some nice plays. Not a Hall of Famer by any stretch, but a good football, but a decent wide receiver, decent slot receiver and returner. And back in 2004, when I believe it was the Chargers who let Wes Welker go, years later, Marty Schottenheimer called releasing Welker, only to then be picked up by the Dolphins, as the biggest mistake of his coaching career.
Yeah, and that's where the limited time that they get with somebody like Efton Chism compared to Javon Baker, who they scouted through leading up to the draft, and then they had him in their program the entire last year leading up to this point with Chism. They've really only gotten to see him since late May, early June. And so he's come on strong over the last week or so, but again, when he mixes in with the ones with Drake May, a lot of that is in like drills. It's not in the competitive team periods. So other than at OTAs, he hasn't had a ton of run with those super high level rep guys. And so it's hard just because it's such a crunch time. He's going to need to make a real push, like an aggressive push to make this roster. And if they decide to cut him, they've paid him $259,000, including the signing bonus that he had, and the rest of that is guaranteed money. That's, I believe, historically a record-breaking amount for a UFDA. And that indicates that, yeah, there were other teams, and I talked to his personal coach back at home. There were other teams that were interested in him, that wanted to bring him on. And so if
he broke Cooper Kupp's records at Eastern Washington. The kid's he's not an anomaly. It's not
he's
like
not
he was.
He's not a total rando,
No,
he's
exactly.
So I think the question there is, when you look at his process, are you seeing enough indication that he's going to develop into somebody who's really going to make a difference on your 53-man roster later this season or next season or the season after that, and somebody that you want to be developing in your program? And the NFL is not usually a developmental league, but you feel like he is that Amendola, Wes Welker, Edelman-ish type, and you can't bear to cut him because you know that he's not going to make it on in the practice squad and somebody else is going to pick him up? Or do you look at him and go, we really feel that we know enough about Efton over these last several weeks to know that we love the kid. He has the greatest attitude. He's a wonderful teammate. Hope he finds success elsewhere, but he doesn't fit in with us here.
Yeah, I can't see a world, and I can't see a Josh McDaniels offense, no matter how reconfigured, revamped, and revitalized it is, where a guy like Efton Chism just doesn't fit in or doesn't have the time to develop into something else. Yeah, like you said, Marcus Jones will be your punt returner likely, and then you'll have Travion Henderson as your primary kickoff returner. Antonio Gibson also had a nice one last week as well, and I'm really excited to see what McDaniels can do with a guy that has wide receiver / running back, legitimate professional flex option playing talent. I don't know. I think he gets picked up. I don't think Baker gets picked up, but Baker could be somebody. You've seen Vrabel talking to him a bunch. You've seen other people trying to get into his ear. A lot of people believe, there you go. Yeah, Gonzo Duke watching live right now on YouTube. He's going to end up on the practice squad. It's a risk. It's a risk. You have to be, if you let a guy go, Belichick even said that when you let a guy go, just because you think they're certified for the practice squad and they'll be a great member of your team one day, you have to be willing to or be okay with them getting picked up by somebody else. So that's ultimately what it comes down to. Any other players, by the way, in attending so many practices, Mego, on the rest of the 53 that you think are either locks or have a greater than average chance of making it that you didn't necessarily see as possible members of the 53?
I think the other one that jumped out to me that's really emerged is DJ James. And I'm sure everyone watching the preseason game and saw the pick that he had would understand why. He's somebody who's shown so much energy throughout practice. And, I always think about it as when you note a play in competitive drills and it's a number that you're not super familiar with. You're not looking at your 99s with Keon White or 90 from Barmore. And I'm thinking about this with defense specifically. And it makes you pull out the roster and go, okay. And I feel with DJ James, there have been a couple different days when we've done that. We've said, okay, there he is again. There he is again. I tweeted this. I do think that there's something a little bit JC Jackson-ish about him. And again, JC Jackson, who was pretty under the radar when the Patriots brought him on, had some off the field stuff when he was
good
entering the
until he
draft.
demanded to get paid, and then his career went sideways.
Hey, he got paid though.
He got that bag. That's for damn sure. Thank you, Chargers.
Just not from the Patriots. And then we if you followed his career, it was kind of peaked over here. But that's somebody else who I'd have an eye on. I always struggle with his first name, Fitzy. Khyiris Tonga.
Oh, Khyiris, yeah.
Khyiris Tonga. Somebody I didn't have a super high profile on going into
you
training
need
camp.
defensive line depth. You need rotational depth for sure. And as far as Khyiris Tonga has actually looked the part of somebody who can hold the block and eat some trench, if you will. And DJ James, I hate to say it, you need some cornerback depth. Gonzo's probably going to be just fine. And I know he's going out to Minnesota, but won't be participating more on that in a second. But Carlton Davis, a little bit of a wild card thus far for someone who's getting paid $20 million a season. I think Alex Austin is terrific. Diamond in the rough, real find. Marcus Jones, we talked to him yesterday on the afternoon show. I'm a big fan of his, whether he's working inside or out. But you could use two other guys, especially with Marcellus Dial, who probably was going to make the team better than Isaiah Bolden, I think, at this point. You need some guys. So for DJ James to pop out and be the discount JC Jackson for the 2025 Pats, that's total bonus. Love it.
Yeah, I agree. I think I saw somebody making a comparison. I'm sorry, I don't remember it off the top of my head. So if you remember it, you can tell me. Making comparisons to Malcolm Butler, which again, another Patriot hero.
Another UDFA.
So that's kind of the level of, hey, have you maybe found something on the opposite side of the ball that now this guy has earned his 53-man roster spot? I continue to say these practices coming up in Minnesota carry so much more weight, in my opinion, than a lot of what you're going to see on TV in the next two preseason games. Not like those things don't matter, but just clocking where these guys are week by week, especially because it's such a young team, week by week, what their progress is, what their process is, and trying to chart who they're going to be throughout the season. I think that's why when I say there's 2 weeks left until cut down day, it's fair because we've seen so much to try to project. But with all of these position groups, there's still a lot of room for fluctuations, change, unfortunately, injuries, and everything else.
So what do you think, fans? Who do you have in your Patriots wide receiver room? Do you agree with us that it's going to be a 6-man room? Could they possibly keep 7? Is it Baker? Is it Chism? Is it both? Is it neither? And what for Kendrick Bourne and the sad, curious case of Jalen Polk? Holler at us anytime. She's at Megan_Ottolini. This is at Fitzy GFY, and you are listening to the At 6 Rings pod. Stay tuned. We're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up in Minnesota and what the Patriots can expect when they go up against Kevin O'Connell, B-Flow, JJ, and the Minnesota Vikings. All right, so Mego, you said that you believe that the joint practices against the Vikings could be the most meaningful reps and meaningful minutes of the preseason. And I do not disagree with you at all. I think that is a salient and solid take because you're going up against a really good defense. You're going up against a defensive coordinator known for, as people like to say, dialing it up and exotic blitz packages. He's an old friend in Brian Flores. If you're looking to see how Jared Wilson can hold up, whether it's at center where I think he should be, or over at left guard, what a disaster that Cole Strange or Layden Robinson or City So or anyone else who's been on the team can't grab hold of this job, where Mike Vrabel and Doug Marrone are honestly holding open auditions, it seems, every day. And then Will Campbell, who graded out pretty well, especially in run blocking in his first game and against the Commanders in joint practices. This is where we'll really get a chance to see, okay, so everyone's kind of been, buffing you guys up a little bit, that you've been making all this progress and you're one of the most improved teams and the turnaround is real. Okay, now show it against a team that has Super Bowl dreams. And also, I just can't kind of wait to see what JJ McCarthy looks like when it starts to count. I freaking loved watching that kid in college.
I feel like JJ is just because he was, again, one of those guys who you could have ended up with. Jaden Daniels to me is the biggest what if those guys had switched positions in the draft Drake and JJ or Drake and Jaden. But there were friends of ours, very, very extremely well-informed, like Tommy Curran, who really thought that JJ McCarthy was the route that they should have taken in that draft.
Yeah, I was a big fan. If they had taken There was a lot of buzz actually that Elliott Wolf was pretty taken with JJ McCarthy and that there was a lot of love for him in the building. I guess obviously we know which way they ultimately went. And there are some people that think, like here's a commenter, Poppy Love Crypto. All we need is Drake to snap out of the puppy stage. Do you think Drake May is like still in the puppy stage? Like, obviously there's a lot of growing still left to do for him, but do you think he's still like kind of like a doe-eyed rookie, or have you seen some progress that has given you that's given you some confidence in him moving forward?
I would guess that the puppy stage goes back to the turnover that he had in the preseason game, which
No,
was
it's not great.
a dreadful turnover. So I
Ugh.
don't blame people with being frustrated by that.
Right.
But
Yeah, Andy Hart called it Farvian, which is actually pretty solid, meaning like trying too hard to be a backyard playmaker.
okay, yeah, gunslinger, all of that
Yeah, it
balance that
didn't
he
it
has to
didn't
find.
involve like stealing insurance money or pills.
To me, I felt I felt that that was more indicative of his lack of experience, and that's just kind of like a combination of trying to do too much and not understanding the stakes of the situation. Now we say stakes, it's a preseason game, but you can't ever get into the habit of doing something like that.
No,
That
no.
you gotta be able to just take the sack and know that it sucks or scramble back up to the line of scrimmage and make it a neutral play, but you can't just try to do everything all at once. But calling him like that he's still in the puppy stage,
Yeah.
maybe that point where your puppy's like almost a year old and still has the really big paws,
Mhm.
but can be trusted in the house for 3 hours without having to rush back and let them out.
Yeah, I see. My big take on Drake for this year is you can judge him whenever you want. Like he got 11 games in last year, but it's still technically a rookie year until he plays 17 games, right? So this is the end of his rookie year. And if he plays all 17 and has a good solid first year under Vrabel and McDaniels with all this new talent in front of and around him in his periphery, then that's it. We won't say like, oh, he's only played 1 2/3 seasons. Like, no, he'll have played 2 years. But my big thing about judging him or assessing how far he's grown or where his talent is that I don't think we should be levying judgment on him until maybe early to mid-October. Like I need to see at least a full month of him in the McDaniels system working with like Diggs is new. Yeah, he's got chemistry with Pop. That's showing. Kyle Williams is new. He's got some chemistry with Booty as well. But like could it be Chism, Baker, all these like I know he's got a good thing with Hunter Henry, but also, a new running back in Henderson. And, the left side of the line could very well be rookies as well. And you have new center potentially in front of you. Who knows who's going to play right tackle? Marcus Bryant's actually looked pretty good for a 6th round pick. So it's going to take Drake some time. I don't want to say after week 1, like he did it. He's Josh Allen 2.0. And I'm also not going to say the kid's a bust and he's still a puppy. Like I'm going to give him, I'd say mid-October before I start feeling one way or another about how Drake is going.
I think that's fair. And one way that McDaniels, and give credit to the front office, whether you think that's more Elliott Wolf or Mike Vrabel, one thing they've done is seemingly from early glances bought themselves some time because the running game will support a lot of taking some of that weight off of your second year quarterback's shoulders, right? If
Yeah.
Travion Henderson, we're not going to be having 100 plus rushing yards per game and ripping off 18-yard rushes every down. But if he can combine and complement with Ramondre Stevenson
Mm-hmm.
and put together a really comprehensive rushing game, and it looks like so far that especially left side of your offensive line is really good at blocking the run game, where when Drake drops back to pass, it becomes a little bit of a bigger
Mm-hmm.
challenge. If you can
Mm-hmm.
use that through your first, 6 weeks and let things kind of develop naturally and let these rookies and your young quarterback get up to speed, you bought yourself some time and you're probably still putting some stuff together.
Yeah, and for whoever plays cornerback when they have the joint practices, 2 joint practices and 1 pretend season game, which is Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern as well. We'll try to get you a recap podcast over the weekend as well and hop on and yap it up with you fine Foxborough footballers. I like Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, depending on how much they play, could be a nice little test. Could be a nice little test for how far, for if Carlton Davis plays at all. Like we said, Gonzo won't. Alex Austin, Marcus Jones. Aaron Jones is always a handful. JJ McCarthy, this is his rookie year because he missed all of last year as well. And that defense, they have a good offensive line as well. And, you'd probably love to see Will Campbell turn into a Darisaw one day. And on the other side, like Minnesota can get after it. Like even without Brian Flores' brilliant scheming and exotic blitzes, they can get after, like they can rush the passer. That's going to be a whale of a front. Like you want to see how far Jared Wilson and Will Campbell have come. You want to see what kind of work Doug Marrone has put in. You want to see the evolution and growth and maturity of Drake May. Let's see how they handle the 2 joint practices. And then potentially maybe a quarter and a half of football on Saturday against the starters and the ones.
Yeah, Saturday will be fun, like our little Saturday 1 p.m. game. Again, it's probably going to be more comparable to what you did with Washington, where those days of practice carry a lot more weight because you get so many more reps among the ones than you do in the preseason game. I'm happy for a recap for all of that. But I think because they looked so strong against the Commanders in that joint practice, they looked really good, Fitzy. You were there. They looked really good. Like I thought Drake in that joint practice was like an A-/B+. He looked
for sure
great. And then the preseason game, it was like, there's a lot of things here to get excited about, but I didn't really see much from the passing game to make me sit up and go, wow, okay, we got some weapons now. We got, Stephon Diggs didn't play. Hunter Henry wasn't out there. So I think the joint practices still hold a lot more weight. But to me, another big question mark is just that left side, as you brought up.
Yeah.
It's a lot of inexperience on that side. And there have been so many eyes on Will Campbell. Jared Wilson has emerged as one of the biggest delights of training camp. And I saw Wiggy on the morning show just very quickly say, maybe it makes sense to swing Mike Onwenu over to that side. He's playing right guard and he's got so much experience there. Why not put him over at left guard? I don't think Mike Onwenu wants to go over there.
No, don't. It's like, don't. He's happy where he is. He's healthy. Like he's doing his thing. Like don't make him try to learn a whole new set of footwork and new blocking schemes.
Historically, I don't think he likes playing on that side. He played over there with Isaiah Wynn. I don't think it's a good time.
Isaiah Wynn has poisoned one in many a watering hole. The only guy I ever heard of to yell at Mike Reese, for God's sake. Shame on him. No, leave Onwenu where he is. Work with the young kids. Maybe somebody steps up and wins that left guard spot. We'll see. Yeah, and they're going to be an absolute handful to deal with, which I think is great for the Patriots. I want to see them get tested more now as well. Like, Minnesota's pass rush, Minnesota's line, JJ McCarthy. I think this is all a terrific test for the Patriots as well. And make sure you follow Megan Ottolini at Megan_Ottolini. She'll have her observations as well. We'll glean what we can from the beat reporters and friends on the media hill that'll be out there as well, who will give us some fresh perspective. Once again, 2 joint practices, 1 game on Saturday where hopefully the starters play a quarter and a half or so. I heard Tom Curran on the midday show today actually say he thought yesterday's practice was kind of lackluster and that maybe the Pats are a little tired heading out to Minnesota because they put so much into the joint practice. Then they had the big game and the big, guys, y'all got to get tuned up. There's 5 more months of this, mofos.
That last period that they had in the walkthrough yesterday was dreadful for the offense.
That's what I heard. It was
so ugly. But again, I still trend a little bit more positively towards the joint practice they had with the Commanders. The offense looked great. Yeah. So I think when they're locked in, that's going to be closer to who they are.
Well, we shall find out soon enough. Thank you guys for listening to the latest 6 Rings and Football Things with your old pals, Fitzy and Mego. We'll be back very soon to talk about those joint practices and, of course, recap pretend season game number 2 at that gorgeous metallic glass alien spaceship parked right in the middle of downtown Minnesota. It's incredible, by the way. Like, it is such a striking building when you see it. Like, really, really awesome. I wish.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then
Minnesota,
you go out afterwards.
nice?
Yeah, you go out afterwards and get a couple of juicy Lucy's. It's a yum. It's a real big yum.
Oh, wow. Watch yourself now.
Yeah. I love St. Paul, but I love the Twin Cities, period. It's so much. I think they're a ton of fun, good food, good people. Anyway, it's not that podcast. Anyway, so thanks for listening, everybody. Always a good time. Make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends to join the fastest growing Pats fan community out there in all of the podcasting lands. You can find us on Spotify, You can find us on Apple Pods and, of course, the iHeart app and the Odyssey app anytime. For Mego, this is Fitzy. We'll talk to you soon. Good day. God bless. Appreciate y'all tuning in live. And as always, go Pats. Don't